There were wires attached to the window that led to a bright red bell on the wall. She guessed the bell would start to wail if the windows were broken. Once she was inside, she'd have to act fast. The last thing she needed was for Nottingham to show up and decide to be a police officer for once. She closed her eyes and said a silent prayer, then reared back, aimed, and tossed the rock. She prepared for the shattering of glass, but it never came. Instead, she heard a voice. Sabrina Grimm turns to a life of crime. I'm so proud of you. Sabrina recognized the voice immediately. It was Puck, and he had a rock clenched firmly in his hand. What are you doing here? Sabrina demanded, dragging him into the shadows. Keeping an eye on you, Puck said. You slipped past all my security. I'm not going to stay locked up in the house just 'cause you say we should, Sabrina said. I can take care of myself. You're truly an ungrateful jerk. Do you know how much money I have to pay the troglodyte to sit inside the dirty clothes hamper? Not to mention the brownies living in the bushes outside and the ogre under the couch. Professionals are not cheap. Plus, I have to pay their dental insurance and contribute to their 401k plans. But do you appreciate it? No. You run around this town willy-nilly as if you had a death wish. Well, listen, Bob. If your family gets killed, then I'm out in the cold. That means no more free meals, no more cable TV. Do you know what would happen to me if I had to go back down to just 3 or 4 channels? Puck shuddered. Listen, everyone appreciates what you're trying to do, Sabrina said. But at the moment, it's getting my way. Now hand over that rock. I need it. Hey, you don't have to tell me about the need to break things, Puck said. If I don't smash a window 4 or 5 times a day, I don't feel it myself. Still, it doesn't seem like your style. I'm not breaking windows just to break something. I need to get into the bank. There's something inside I have to get, Sabrina said. That's what all the bank robbers say. I'm not robbing the bank. Then why are you going to steal? They chain the pens to the counters, you know. I'm not stealing anything. I'm breaking in to get something that wasn't given to me. And I can't wait for the bank to open. But you plan on breaking something to do it, right? Yes. Okay, I'll help. Sabrina felt like telling Puck to get lost, but she realized the fairy boy had some skills that might come in handy. Puck could do all kinds of things that human beings couldn't. Actually, Sabrina said. Puck grinned and tossed the rock aside. Allow me to call some friends. He took a small wooden flute from his pocket and blasted a few notes into it. Moments later, they were standing in a tornado of little lights. There were hundreds of them buzzing past Sabrina's face, clicking and chirping. Puck raised his hands and all the lights stopped in midair. Sabrina had met these creatures before. They were pixies, and they obeyed every command Puck gave them. Minions, he said, we need to get back into this bank. The group of lights squeaked and flew toward the bank's window. They seemed to study it for a moment, and then they flew off, circling the buildings as if looking for a crack or crevice to invade. Moments later, Sabrina saw a few of them flying around inside the bank. They hovered in the window and buzzed the Puck. They're opening the door for us now, Puck said. Sabrina and Puck rushed around to the front door and hurried out inside. Sabrina closed the door behind them in case anyone strolling down the street noticed it was wide open. I believe the words you are looking for are thank you, Puck said. Sabrina rolled her eyes. We've got to act fast. This place might have a silent alarm, and if that's the case, Nottingham is probably on his way. What are we looking for? Safe deposit boxes. You'll find them in a room with little drawers built into the walls. Puck repeated the description to the pixies, and they flew off in different directions. Sabrina went searching her own, opening one door after another. Each room she searched was a dead end, and each dead end made her more and more aware that Nottingham could arrive at any moment. Luckily, Puck called out that the room had been found. She raced back the way she came and found him hovering in a doorway at the opposite end of the building. In the room, they found 3 walls, each lined with little silver doors. The 4th wall supported an enormous round door that protected the valuables in the bank's vault. Sabrina studied one drawer carefully. It had a number carved into it, store, and a tiny lock. Sabrina reached into her pocket and removed the silver key. The number printed on it read TH192. I need to open TH192, she said, scanning the wall. There were so many doors, it could take hours to find the right one. What's the big deal about this safe deposit box? Puck asked as he joined the search. Sabrina knew she couldn't keep her secret from him any longer. Before we left New York City, Sheriff Hamster gave Daphne this key and told her it opened a box that contained a powerful weapon. He told her to get it if Mr. Candace ever lost control of the wolf. Hamster said it was the only thing that could truly stop him. If he gave it to Daphne, then how come you have it? Puck asked. Sabrina felt her face go red. She doesn't understand. You stole it? Sabrina nodded. I had to. Puck looked surprised. What? Are you disappointed? Is the trickster king going to give me a lecture on being a good person? I'm doing this for the good of us all, Sabrina argued. This weapon might be able to fix Mr. Candace too and fight the Scarlet Hand. Then you could let your security guards go. Puck said nothing. He didn't have to. Sabrina could sense his disapproval, though it boggled the mind. Who was Puck to tell her how to behave? Here it is, he said. Sabrina rushed to his side and checked the number on the drawer. It matched the one on the silver key. She slipped the key into the slot, turned it, and felt the latch open. Inside was a long metal box with a handle. She pulled it out, her mind swirling with possibilities. Carefully, she opened the top of the box. Inside was a small blue velvet bag tied at the top with string. The words "The North Wind" was stitched on the fabric in gold. Sabrina took the bag in her hand. Whatever was inside was small and cylindrical. She was surprised by how light it was. Sabrina untied the string and opened the bag. Wary of touching a magical item, she peered into the sack. She expected to find an ancient amulet that could shoot electricity or perhaps a magic wand, but instead, much to her surprise, she found a kazoo. What is it? Puck said. He pulled a kazoo from the sack and examined it closely. This is your secret weapon? Sabrina was too crushed to speak. She felt as if someone had just punched her in the stomach. All of her hopes, all of her needs, and all of her plans had just vanished before her eyes, replaced by someone's idea of a twisted joke. It's a toy, Sabrina said. It's a child's toy. How is this going to stop the big bad wolf? It won't, you idiot. It's a kazoo. Can't you see? It's someone's idea of a prank. She stormed out of the room and out the front door of the bank. Somehow that triggered the alarm and ear-splitting bells started ringing. Hey, you can't just walk away on your own, Puck said, chasing after her. You need protection. Why? Sabrina said as she stepped out into the street. What does it matter? The whole town's trying to kill us. My grandmother's best friend is a murderer. We're all dead anyway. You still have me, Puck said. Sabrina scowled but said nothing. You don't think I can protect you, do you? Puck asked. I don't think anyone can, Puck, Sabrina cried. At least not now. Puck's face flashed red, but he said nothing. Come on, we'd better get back to the house, Sabrina said, changing her tone. She knew she had hurt him, but did he really expect that she would put her family's safety in the hands of an immature fairy whose biggest enemy was a bar of soap? Just a minute, Puck said as he stared at the little toy flute. Maybe there's something more to this kazoo. How does it work? It's a toy, Puck, she said, snatching it out of his hands. You blow into it. She put the kazoo into her mouth, took a deep breath, and blew. She had used the kazoo before. She knew there was a trick to making a sound, a sort of hum or blow into one end that makes a fuzzy musical note come out of the other. But this kazoo didn't do that. Instead, she felt a familiar, uncomfortable tingle of magic. Then there was a horrible whooshing sound and an intense whipping wind and flying, and right before her eyes, the windows of the bank imploded. The roof flew off the building and the walls crumbled. Even the paint on the sign peeled off and blew away, along with every nail, screw, and 2x4. In a matter of seconds, there was no evidence that a bank or any other kind of building had ever stood in front of her. When the wind died down, all that was left of the bank was the alarm, ringing loudly as if there was still something to protect. Sabrina gaped at the kazoo, speechless. "Well, if you don't want it, I'll take it," Puck said. Chapter 7. Sabrina and Puck slipped back into the house without incident. After returning the flying carpet to Mira, Puck followed Sabrina into her bedroom. There they found Daphne, still solidly asleep and producing deep, loud snores that sounded like a lovesick moose. Sabrina carefully placed the necklace and safe deposit box key back around the little girl's neck and breathed a sigh of relief that she hadn't been caught. Puck watched from the corner with a frown on his face. "Don't give me any grief. I did what had to be done," Sabrina said as she kicked off her shoes. She was too tired to put her pajamas back on and sat crawled under the blankets fully dressed. "No lecture," Puck said. "Still, we need to get something clear. From now on, you need to check in with your bodyguards before you sneak out." "I can't sneak out if someone knows I'm sneaking out," Sabrina argued. "That takes the sneakiness out of the sneak. Besides, you're taking this whole security thing too far. I don't need bodyguards. I can handle myself just fine. And now that we have the kazoo..." "So you're not going to cooperate?" Sabrina shook her head sleepily. "No, I'm not, and there's nothing you can do about it." Puck grinned. "Then I suppose I'm just helpless then, huh? I guess you've won." "Now you're getting it," Sabrina said. "Now go back to bed. I'm tired." Sabrina braced herself for another argument, but much to her surprise, Puck turned and left the room. Sabrina smiled and nestled into her bed. "I think that boy is finally getting some sense," she thought. As she drifted off to sleep, she reached into her pants pocket and removed the sack that held a kazoo. She could feel the unhealthy ache that magic produced, but the bag seemed to dull the sensation. Regardless, she would have to be careful. Maybe she should find a hiding place for it so that the temptation didn't overtake her. She had to be strong this time. After all, she couldn't count on the others. This time, she was on her own. The next morning, Sabrina awoke to a blinding light. The rising sun was flooding through her bedroom window and right into her eyes. She would have to remember to pull the blinds in the future. She reached for a pillow to pull over her head, but her wrist was caught on something. She sat up in bed and held her left hand up to her face. There was a steel bracelet wrapped tightly around her wrist. It was connected to a strong chain that was linked to a similar bracelet that was attached to the wrist of a shaggy-haired boy who was sleeping in a rocking chair next to her bed. "Puck!" Sabrina cried, pulling so hard on her end of the handcuffs that the boy fairy tumbled out of the chair and onto the floor. Unfortunately, the floor dragged her out of bed as well, and she fell on top of him. "What's the story, Morning Glory?" Puck said, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. "What is this about?" Sabrina said, raising her hand and shaking the handcuff, thus shaking Puck's arm as well. "Unfortunately, it's necessary," Puck explained. "You don't want to walk with my security staff, so from now on, I'm going to be your personal bodyguard. I'm going to be with you every second of the day." "This is insanity," Sabrina said, as she tried in vain to free herself. "Trust me, being downwind of you 24 hours a day is not what I call good time, but you've left me no choice." Sabrina screamed, "Give me the key!" Puck reached into his pocket and took out a tiny golden key. "Is this what you want?" "Give it to me, pussface!" Are you going? That seems to be the end of this video, and I think it's going to be the last one for the night. Anyways, goodbye.